You're not disappointed because others failed. You're disappointed because you expected too much. That's what Stoicism teaches. The fault isn't in them, it's in the expectations you placed on them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you're hurt, it's not the act itself that wounds you, it's your interpretation of it." So here's the hard truth and the freedom behind it. Stop expecting people to follow the script you've written in your head. They never agreed to the role. Subscribe if you're ready to be free. Free from the weight of unspoken expectations. Free to respond with clarity, not disappointment. Because the more you expect, the more you suffer. And the less you need, the freer you become. 1. The burden of expectations is one you chose to carry. We rarely stop to question why disappointment cuts so deep. It feels like betrayal, a letdown, a violation of something sacred. But the truth is sharper and far more empowering. You were not hurt by what they did, you were hurt by what you expected. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "If someone does wrong, the harm lies in their action, not in how you interpret it. It's not their behavior that breaks you. It's your attachment to how you hoped they would behave." Let's be honest, no one asked to be cast in the script you've written for them. They didn't promise to show up the way you imagined. Yet, when they fail to meet the silent terms of your expectations, you suffer, not because they broke a promise, but because you believed in a version of them that never existed. Expectations are invisible contracts we impose on others, hoping they'll play along, silently, flawlessly, and without fail. It's a form of emotional control disguised as hope. But in Stoicism, hope unchecked by reason is a setup for disappointment. As Epictetus reminds us, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. When you expect others to validate, prioritize, or behave according to your inner script, you hand over your peace to forces you can't control. And then you wonder why it's constantly slipping away. Here's the truth you need to face. No one owes you consistency. No one owes you understanding. They owe you nothing. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you reclaim what is truly yours, your mind, your emotions, your stability. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you choose clarity over illusion. You choose freedom over emotional dependency. Because here's what most people never realize. The more you expect, the more you suffer. The less you expect, the more you can observe clearly and respond, not react. And when you stop expecting others to live up to a standard they never agreed to, you unlock a strength that few ever discover. You start seeing people as they are, not as you need them to be. You stop blaming them for your emotional weather. And you start developing something Stoics value above all, equanimity, the ability to remain calm and stable no matter what others do. Let's put this into practice. What to do next? Next time you feel that wave of disappointment rising, pause. Before you react, ask yourself, what did I expect, and did they ever agree to it? Then breathe. Count down from 5. Let the urge to control pass through you. Instead of reacting, write down what you assumed would happen and why. You'll be surprised how often your pain came not from the world, but from your map of it. This is the beginning of real freedom. Not needing others to perform. Not tying your peace to the behavior of those you can't control. But walking through life, eyes open, heart grounded, ready to respond, never needing to react. And that is where strength lives. Quiet. Immovable. Yours. 2. No one was born to fulfill your script. You've begun to see it. The pain didn't start with what they did. It started with the silent script you handed them, expecting them to follow it. Now take it further. No one was born to fulfill your expectations. Not your partner. Not your friend. Not your parents. Not your boss. They're not actors in your inner theater. They're not characters written to serve your emotional plot. They are their own people, living their own battles, with flaws and blind spots just like yours. The Stoics were clear on this. Epictetus warned, you are disturbed not by events, but by your opinion about them. But let's make that modern. You're not disturbed by what people do, you're disturbed by the idea that they should have done something else. That word, should, it's subtle. But it carries the weight of control, of moralizing, of invisible standards others never signed up for. And when they violate those standards, you suffer. But ask yourself, who made you the director of everyone else's life? Let go of the illusion that people exist to meet your unspoken needs. They don't. And they shouldn't. That realization stings at first. But it's the sting of growth, of shedding an old skin. Because here's the deeper truth. The more you believe others owe you something, kindness, consistency, loyalty, the more you position yourself as a victim when they don't deliver. And victimhood, to the Stoics, is spiritual weakness. It's dependence disguised as righteousness. The alternative? Radical self-responsibility. Seneca put it clearly, he is most powerful who has power over himself. That's the path. You stop measuring others by your internal scorecard. You stop treating every disappointment like a personal injustice. You drop the script, and you start seeing people clearly. And with that clarity comes a kind of peace you've never tasted before. Not coldness. Not detachment. But the kind of presence that no longer asks others to play a role in your healing. What to do next? Today, choose one person you've recently felt disappointed by. Write down 3 assumptions or expectations you've been projecting onto them. Be brutally honest. Then ask, did they actually promise this? Or did I quietly assume it, then punish them for breaking it? Once you see the script, burn it. Metaphorically or literally. You'll feel lighter. Because that script wasn't helping you connect, it was blocking you from reality. And here's the practice. Every time you catch yourself saying they should have, pause. Replace it with, they did what they did. Now I choose how to respond. That's your real power. Let go of the need for others to be perfect. Let go of the quiet hope they'll validate you, fix you, or read your mind. The moment you drop that weight, something shifts. You begin to see people, not as servants to your story, but as fellow travelers. Some will walk with you. Some will leave. Either way, you remain grounded, whole, unshaken. That is Stoic love. Not sentimental. Not dependent. But clear-eyed, stable, and free. 3. Your reaction is your responsibility, always. Let's not sugarcoat it. When someone lets you down, lies to you, disrespects you, or pulls away when you needed them most, the first impulse is to react. To protect yourself. To confront. To collapse. To rage. But the Stoic doesn't move that way. The Stoic pauses, not because they are weak, but because they know something others don't. Your reaction is your responsibility. Always. You may not have chosen what happened, but you are always choosing what happens next. This is not a pleasant truth. It demands the death of your ego, your victimhood, your comfort zone. It means letting go of the seductive idea that your emotions are justified simply because you feel them strongly. It means accepting, fully, that your internal state is yours to govern, even when others break trust, act unfairly, or fail to be who you thought they were. Epictetus, a man born a slave, taught this with clarity. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Read that again. Now think about how much of your energy in the past month, maybe the past year, has been spent trying to get people to act right, so you didn't have to react. It's backwards. You've given away your power trying to engineer a perfect environment. When in truth, the Stoic cultivates a powerful inner environment, one that cannot be shaken by someone else's choices. Let's bring this into the modern world. In relationships, you may feel the urge to text back with cold silence or passive aggression. At work, you might be tempted to gossip, stonewall, or let resentment boil under a calm face. But none of these are strength. They're just subtle forms of reaction, chosen by default, not by design. Real strength? It's the ability to remain principled when tested. It's being able to say, I choose my response, not my emotions. I don't hand over my dignity just because someone else dropped theirs. Because when you lash out, ghost, dramatize, or retaliate, you don't just hurt the other. You corrupt your own inner state. And the Stoic refuses to poison his mind, even when the world around him is unjust. Make this real today. When you feel yourself triggered by someone's words, tone, or absence, take 5 seconds. Literally. Count backward in your mind, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then ask yourself, if I act now, will I respect myself tomorrow? Is this reaction from clarity or from hurt? Am I letting their behavior define my character? Then do one thing. Write down what you wanted to say, but don't send it. Instead, read it tomorrow morning. Chances are, you'll be grateful you held your ground. That 5-second pause? That's where your strength begins. That's where reaction becomes response. That's where you stop being controlled and start becoming the kind of man you'd follow. The modern world doesn't need more emotionally reactive men. It needs men who know how to rule themselves. Not cold. Not numb. But anchored. And here's the quiet power you begin to develop. When your peace is no longer dictated by someone else's chaos, you've already won. 4. Betrayal is an action, hurt is a choice. Let's be honest, betrayal stings. Whether it's a broken promise, a lie, or the slow fade of someone you trusted, betrayal feels personal. And for a moment, it is personal. The ego screams. The heart tightens. The mind replays the scene. But a man of principle knows how to split the experience in two. What they did, and what he does with it. This is the Stoic divide. It's the space where self-mastery is born. Because what they did is on them. But what you feel, believe, and carry afterward, that's on you. Epictetus taught this with brutal clarity. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. He wasn't saying, don't feel. He was saying, don't surrender. There's a big difference between pain and suffering. Pain is real. It happens. But suffering, the long, bitter echo, that's often self-inflicted. And when it comes to betrayal, the suffering begins when you turn their actions into a story about your worth. I must not be enough. Why do people always do this to me? I'll never trust anyone again. That's not reflection. That's attachment. That's ego trying to protect itself by rewriting reality. But here's the Stoic truth. No one can betray you without your participation. Not emotionally. Not spiritually. They can lie. They can vanish. But you choose whether to absorb it or observe it. You choose whether to let their failure become part of your identity or let it pass like a storm over still water. And you always have that choice. It doesn't mean you don't feel the sting. It means you don't build a house in the pain and call it home. A Stoic doesn't deny pain, he simply doesn't kneel to it. He asks, what's in my control? Then he acts from that. Only that. Make this real today. If someone has recently let you down, write down 2 columns. Left, what they did. Right, what I made it mean. Then take a hard look at the right column. What assumptions are you clinging to? What stories are you feeding yourself that only keep the wound open? Now ask yourself, is this reaction helping me become the man I want to be? What would I do right now if I had nothing to prove and no ego to protect? Let that answer guide your next move. Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's a direct conversation. Maybe it's walking away with clarity, not drama. But whatever it is, make sure it's chosen, not triggered. Because the Stoic doesn't wait for others to fix their behavior. He just refuses to be ruled by it. You can't stop people from being who they are. But you can stop giving them the power to shape who you become. And in that quiet, grounded strength, You begin to build a life no betrayal can shake. 5. Suffering begins when you argue with reality. There are two types of pain. One is clean. It comes, it cuts, and it passes. The other festers. It loops. It lingers. That second kind? That's the pain you keep alive by resisting what already is. And that's the one most men live with every day. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. Suffering begins when you argue with reality. You were ghosted? It hurts. But it happened. They lied to you? That's real. But it's done. She left you when you needed her most? It broke your plans. But it's no longer happening now. So why are you still living in it? Because deep down, a part of you is still saying, this shouldn't have happened. But that sentence, 5 words, is the quiet architect of endless suffering. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, buried children, led men to war, ruled through plagues, and yet he wrote this in Meditations. If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, stop complaining. He wasn't telling you to become numb. He was telling you to stop arguing with the undeniable. The reality is, she left. They lied. The deal fell through. The friendship ended. It's not fair. It's not kind. It's not what you wanted. But it is. Now you have a choice. You can keep feeding the fire with thoughts like, I deserve better. They owe me closure. This shouldn't be happening to me. Or you can sit in radical clarity and ask, what if I stopped resisting? Because once you do, you'll realize something powerful. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not surrender. It's the gateway to strength. Only a man grounded in truth can look at a storm and say, let it come. Only a man who has dropped the need for the world to align with his preferences can remain clear while others spiral. Make this real today. Pick one thing you've been ruminating on, a breakup, betrayal, missed opportunity, or a moment that still plays in your head. Now write this sentence. This happened. And I don't have to like it to accept it. Say it out loud. Not to convince yourself, but to interrupt the emotional momentum you've been fueling. Then, write down the exact words your mind keeps repeating that prolong your suffering. Things like, I should have done more. They should have stayed. This isn't fair. Now, beside each one, write the alternative. I did what I could. They made their choice. Fair or not, this is what I face. This is how Stoics break the loop, not by suppressing the pain, but by refusing to argue with its existence. You don't need to be okay with what happened. But you need to stop being at war with it. Peace isn't found in fixing the past. Peace is found in no longer needing the past to be different. That's not passivity. That's power. The kind of power that no one, not betrayal, not heartbreak, not loss, can take from you. 6. Lower expectations, not because you're cynical, but because you see clearly. You've seen what happens when you resist reality. It breaks you. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but slowly, quietly, by draining your energy into a fight you can never win. Now, go one level deeper. Most men suffer not because the world is cruel, but because they keep expecting it to be different than it is. They expect loyalty without effort, respect without boundaries, love without risk, clarity without asking, support without communicating. And when people don't deliver, they break. Not because of what was done, but because of what they expected to happen. So here's the Stoic principle that feels like a paradox at first. Lower your expectations, not because you're bitter, but because you're awake. Cynical once wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than necessary." Let's apply that to expectations. Every time you anticipate someone will do something, and they don't, you suffer twice. Once in the hoping, and again in the breaking. So the Stoic learns not to hope in people. He observes. He stays alert. He lets actions define the relationship, not fantasies. This isn't cold. It's clear. You don't love less. You love smarter. You don't engage less. You engage without illusion. When you expect less, you're not shutting down. You're stepping back into alignment with what life has always been, unpredictable, imperfect, and deeply human. This is how you gain freedom. Because once you stop needing people to behave a certain way in order for you to stay at peace, that's when you finally touch real peace. Not conditional peace. Not as long as they don't hurt me peace. But something deeper. A silence inside you that no chaos can reach. And here's the unexpected gift. When your expectations drop, your gratitude rises. When someone shows up for you, you see it clearly. You don't take it for granted. You're not entitled to it. You receive it like a man who knows it could have been otherwise. Make this real today. Think of someone close to you, a partner, a friend, a parent. Then write down 5 silent expectations you've placed on them. Now ask, did I ever communicate these clearly? Have I confused my emotional needs with their obligations? What would shift if I expected less and appreciated more? Then do something powerful. Text them. Not with a complaint, but with a thank you for one thing they've done that they didn't have to. It will change how you see them. And more importantly, it will change how you carry yourself. This kind of awareness? It's rare. Most people live their whole lives on the roller coaster of expectation and resentment, and they never know why they're exhausted. But you're here. Reading this. Learning to lead from clarity, not craving. And if this resonates, if you're done living reactively and ready to build a mind that's yours again, subscribe. Not because this is just another voice in the noise, but because you're curating what goes into your mind. Because you want tools, not hype. Reflection, not distraction. Because you're not just looking for content. You're building character. 7. Everyone else is a supporting role. Don't hand them the pen. You've seen what happens when expectations are unchecked. You suffer. Not because others are cruel, but because you hand them the pen and wait for them to write you the life you want. But here's the truth every Stoic knows, and few ever live. This is your story. Everyone else, no matter how close, how intense, how long you've known them, is a supporting character. That's not a dismissal. That's clarity. You are the author. You are the lead. You choose how the scene plays out, not by controlling others, but by refusing to let their chaos dictate your response. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. What does that mean in practice? It means you can care about people deeply, but not let them become the compass. It means you can be in love, but not lose yourself in their storyline. It means you can feel disappointment without rewriting your worth based on someone else's inability to show up. And above all, it means this. You stop giving the loudest voice in your life to people who haven't earned it. Let that sink in. Because most suffering comes from this exact mistake. Letting temporary people shape permanent beliefs about yourself. A missed text becomes, I'm not worthy. An argument becomes, I always mess things up. Their silence becomes, something's wrong with me. But what if they were just playing their part? And you were misreading the scene? The Stoic doesn't deny emotion. He just filters it through the question. Is this mine to carry? He doesn't let every interaction rewrite the story. He knows his values, his direction, his inner compass. So when someone exits the frame, he doesn't chase. When someone disappoints, he adjusts, not collapses. When someone praises, he receives it, but doesn't let it define him. That's not detachment. That's authorship. Make this real today. Open your notes or journal and answer these 3 questions with no filter. Who am I giving too much emotional weight to right now? What story am I letting them write about me? What truth do I need to reclaim as the author of my life? Now write down one small action that would reinforce your story, not theirs. Maybe it's not texting back. Maybe it's showing up to the gym, even when you're tired. Maybe it's turning off your phone for 1 hour and writing your next move. Whatever it is, do it. Today. Not as a power play, but as a reminder. This is your story. No one else gets to hold the pen. Most people spend their whole life reacting to other people's lines. You're learning to write your own script, with calm, with discipline, with clarity. That's the beginning of unshakable peace. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped letting it narrate your worth. 8. Expecting people to stay the same is the real illusion. You've come far. You've seen how people can't write your story unless you hand them the pen. Now it's time to face the next hard truth. People change. And they're supposed to. But most men suffer because they silently hope, and often demand, that people don't. That the partner you fell in love with stays exactly how she was. That the friend you trusted never drifts, never evolves, never changes priorities. That the version of someone you built in your mind, the version who listened, who cared, who saw you, will remain intact forever. But here's the problem. That version never existed outside of your memory. And memory is a story, not a contract. The Stoics knew this deeply. Life is motion. Change is constant. And attachment to unchanging people in an ever-changing world is a recipe for heartbreak. Epictetus said it simply. Never say of anything, I have lost it, but rather, I have given it back. People grow. People shrink. People heal. People fracture. Sometimes they become more of who they were. Sometimes they become unrecognizable. But it's not betrayal. It's the law of impermanence. And the sooner you face it, the less power it has to break you. Here's what most men never realize. You're not suffering because they changed. You're suffering because you wanted them not to. You clung to a version of them that comforted you. That fit your rhythm. That met your needs. And now, the new version doesn't. But here's the thing. They don't owe you sameness. They owe you honesty. And if that honesty shows up in silence, distance, or decisions that no longer include you, that's their truth. The Stoic doesn't cling to what was. He adapts. He recalibrates. He accepts without bitterness. Because peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from adjusting your grip when life shifts underneath you. Make this real today. Choose one person in your life you're struggling to understand, someone who's pulled away, changed, or no longer shows up like they used to. Now ask yourself, am I grieving the person or the version of them I wish they still were? What part of my identity was tied to them staying the same? If I let them be who they are now, what might I release in myself? Then, write a single sentence of acceptance. Something simple. Not poetic. Not emotional. Just clarity. Example. She no longer shows up the way she used to. I released the version I created of her. He is changing. I don't need to chase the past to stay grounded. Say it aloud. Then sit with the silence that follows. That silence? That's you meeting reality. That's where the pain ends and the clarity begins. You were never meant to hold people in place. You were meant to meet them where they are or let them walk. And when you do that without resentment, without stories, without trying to fix or rewind, you become something rare. A man in alignment with reality. And no one can move a man who walks in step with truth. 9. The fewer expectations you carry, the freer you become. At this point, you've probably started to notice something. Most of your pain isn't coming from what others do. It's coming from the script you're still clinging to, the roles you've assigned, the scenes you imagined, the outcomes you silently demanded. And when people, life, timing, or even your own body refuse to follow the plot, you suffer. But here's the radical Stoic truth. Freedom doesn't begin when others do what you expect. Freedom begins when you stop expecting them to. Most people live in quiet emotional bondage. They wake up angry not because life hurt them, but because life didn't match their mental model. They think, she should have replied. He should have known better. They should have respected me. This opportunity should have worked out. And all those shoulds become chains. But the Stoic sees it differently. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, warrior, philosopher, faced betrayal, loss, illness, and war, and still wrote, "Never complain, not even to yourself." Why? Because complaining is the language of expectation. And expectation is the root of emotional dependence. You want to be free? Stop needing people to behave in a way that keeps you comfortable. Stop outsourcing your peace to their patterns. Stop holding others emotionally hostage to your vision of how things should go. Because the more you expect, the more you suffer. The more you assume, the more you're thrown off. The more you need things to turn out a certain way, the more fragile your mind becomes. But when you let go, when you stop needing the moment to unfold a certain way, you begin to move with life instead of against it. That's where true calm begins. Not numbness, but clarity. You don't become indifferent, you become unattached. You don't stop caring, you stop depending. You don't stop showing up, you stop needing a payoff to justify your presence. And what's left? You. Unburdened. Quietly powerful. Make this real today. Do a one-day experiment. For the next 24 hours, choose one relationship in your life, maybe a romantic partner, a close friend, or a coworker, and do the following. Expect nothing. Not a text. Not a kind word. Not understanding. Not attention. Observe everything. Watch how they behave without the lens of your needs. Respond from principle, not preference. Speak only what's rooted in calm truth, not emotional demand. Then, tonight, write down your answers to 3 questions. What did I notice when I dropped expectation? Was I more free or more reactive? What surprised me about how I responded differently? This isn't detachment. This is discipline. And the man who practices it becomes someone rare, someone others can't manipulate, offend, or destabilize. Because his center isn't in how others treat him. His center is within. You'll notice something strange once you begin to walk this path. You won't resent people as much, because you no longer expect them to complete you. You'll become more gracious, not because you're naive, but because you see clearly. And that clarity? It's the beginning of real, untouchable peace. 10. You don't need people to be perfect, you just need to stay grounded. Let's say it clearly, no poetry, no decoration. You don't need people to be perfect. You just need to stay rooted when they aren't. That's the mark of a grounded man. Not someone who controls the world, but someone who no longer needs the world to behave perfectly to stay at peace. Most people never get here. They spend their lives managing chaos, editing their words so others don't get triggered, contorting their boundaries to avoid conflict, waiting for apologies to feel whole again, chasing validation like it holds the key to their dignity. But what if you dropped all of that? What if, starting now, you built a mind that stayed steady, even when the world didn't? That's what Stoicism offers. Not immunity from pain. Not detachment from life. But the ability to walk through the storm and say, I know who I am, and nothing outside me gets to decide that. Cynical wrote, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. This isn't about avoiding disappointment. It's about meeting it like a man who's already done the inner work. So when they ghost you, you feel it, but you don't collapse. When they lash out, you don't return fire. When they forget you, you remember yourself. Because their chaos isn't your compass. Their confusion isn't your mirror. Their imperfections aren't your burden. You were never meant to be reactive. You were meant to be rooted. You've walked through the hardest questions in this series. What am I expecting, and why? Am I reacting or choosing? Is this mine to carry or theirs to live with? Am I letting reality shape me or my need for it to be different? Each one carved something out of you. Not to weaken, but to refine. To cut through the noise and leave only what is solid. And now you're here. Not perfect, but stable. Make this real today. Tonight, find a quiet space. No music. No noise. Just you, your breath, and one question. What does it mean for me to stay grounded, even when others aren't? Don't force an answer. Let it rise. Then write one sentence that will guide you tomorrow, something you can return to when the storm hits. Example. I don't need them to be different for me to be steady. Or, I anchor in principle, not people. Write it. Read it. Repeat it. This isn't just a sentence. It's your inner foothold. Your reminder that while the world moves, you don't have to. And if you've come this far, not just reading, but reflecting, writing, and shifting your inner compass, then this isn't the end. It's the foundation. Because Stoicism isn't content. It's character. Build day by day, question by question, act by act. And if you want to keep sharpening it, stay close. Not because you need more noise, but because every man on this path needs reminders, structure, and challenge. This is the beginning of who you were always capable of becoming. Solid. Calm. Unshakable. You were never promised a life without chaos. But you were given the power to face it with clarity. To stop chasing validation. To stop depending on who stays, who leaves, who disappoints. And instead, to build something no one can take from you, a mind that is yours. If these words made you pause, good. That pause is where transformation begins. Now stay with it. Subscribe if you're ready to train your mind like you train your body, with structure, challenge, and depth. And drop a comment. What expectation are you finally ready to let go of today? Because this isn't a feed. It's a forge. And you're not here to consume. You're here to become.